Coaching in Session,
your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
Today, I'm going to be probably coming in with the most important tune-up series that we have done here at Reven Concepts and here on Coaching in Session. And one of the reasons I say it's the most important TUS series that we have to date is because it is going to evolve us to do some serious self-inspection. Now, it is easy for us to kind of give a blanket look at how we're doing in our life. We can look at our finances, we can look at our relationship, we can look at our ledgers and our balances, and we can say where we are today. But when we do a deeper dive, we can get down to the roots and we can see if anything is growing there that is not going to be beneficial for the long term. For example, you don't want weeds in your garden because the weeds, what they do, even though they might look green and they look healthy, they take away the nutrients from the fruits and the vegetables that you want to be growing. And in life, you want the same abundance. You want to be growing things. You want to be doing things in your life. But oftentimes, when it comes to what we need to be doing, it often gets overshadowed by the things that are the mundane or the things that are easy or comfortable or routine. And so we have to give some attention to ourselves and to how we're operating. And so today we're talking about an intervention, almost like how they would do like a drug intervention. Like we're having an intervention because you're doing the wrong thing. You might have friends or family saying we're having an intervention because you are not being the person we know you can become. I'm not here to say you should be or you should not be the person that you are, or the person that you could be, because it is a choice, right? You want to be someone, great, be someone. If you want to be nobody, then be nobody. You get to choose greatness. Now, the reason why this is a TUS and not a regular blog is because the tune-up series is going to require someone with a strong mindset already to come in, take this information, and then run with it. If you are struggling with some area or aspect of your life, this could be more challenging for you to perhaps dive into or for you to understand. And it's not that you can't understand it, it's just that the mind is not ready for it to dive in fully. Think of if you are learning how to swim, right? When you're first learning how to swim, you might not jump into the deep end of the pool because you don't know how to swim. So you're going to go down the steps, you're going to stay in the shallow end, and that is going to be your swimming experience. It is not to say that you're afraid to get in the water. It's just that you understand that there's a part that you can't traverse yet because you don't have the skills. Today, we are going to be learning at how we can gain the skills, how we can gain the mindset, how we can have the intervention so we can see more clearly on the things that are going to matter the most long term. Now, when we start to look at this blog here, TUS Part 71, Mindset Intervention Before Our Demise, and I have the words demise because some people don't realize how they're on like a gradual slope going downhill. Maybe they have, a lifestyle that's maybe $100 more than what they can handle. Well, guess what? $100 on your credit card this month, and then we have interest, and then next month, and then the next month, and before you know it, by the end of the year, you're damn near $2,000 on this credit card bill. And you're like, whoa, how am I going to pay this credit card bill when you're already in $100 deficit? So we need to figure out very quickly what we're going to do. And for many individuals, when it comes to like themselves and what they are trying to accomplish, they're disconnected. They're disconnected from the true reality of what they're doing or what they can accomplish. So we need to be looking at a couple of things first. These questions I want you to ask yourself to create some self-awareness. And the first question is, am I feeling uninspired or disconnected from my goals? Your goal can be whatever. It could be family. It could be finances. It could be career. It could be, love. You get to choose what your goal is. And then you have to ask yourself, are you in alignment with that goal? Because if you are maybe looking at family as an example, or we can use fitness as an example. We can use anything as an example, right? Well, family as an example. Are you communicating at least 90 minutes with your family? I'm talking about each member. Now you can do it all at once at the dinner table, but are you creating the time? Because what happens, especially with entrepreneurs and business people, they will sacrifice their family. They will misconstrue what they're doing, their actions of going to work and providing for their family, giving them things, taking them on vacations for meaningful connection. But yet there's no connection there. There might be some appreciation. We appreciate you, Mom. We appreciate you, Dad, for doing these things, for sacrificing. But at the end of the day, what they want the most is your attention, is your love, is your presence. They don't care about your dollars. I understand they might go to the store and they might want something. They have these wanting eyes, but that's just the idea of consumerism and what the schools do. So they're just growing up in a system that is not beneficial to the mind. But you can train your children. You can say, hey, we're going to go to the store and we're going to get everything on this list. And if you see something, write it down. And then, of course, we can figure out if we truly want it. And there's ways that you can navigate through that as a parent. But you're trying to figure out what are your goals, because your goals are going to be different than your spouse's goals, than your children's goals, because that kid's goal might be, hey, I want to get all A's so I can get a toy or something. And your goal might be, hey, you want to upgrade your living situation. So depending on your goals, right? So you need to figure out, are you uninspired? Are you disconnected from going toward those goals? Because if you are not getting those A's, if you're not getting, the resources you need to upgrade your lifestyle to get a new home or whatever, there's going to be some disconnection and you're going to feel as if you're going down the wrong path. Well, we start to look at how can we go down the right path, right? And then our second question would be like, have my daily habits subtly shifted in a way that does not align with my values? Now, values are something that we look at quite heavily in the beginning, right? We look at our character and we figure out who we want to become. And then we figure out what we can say to ourselves that is going to be a detriment and things that are going to be a benefit or an asset. For example, I can say negative things about myself. I can say, come on, stop slacking. I can say, come on, like that's not your best. These things, even though they're not like swear words or anything, these things can be negatively, misconstrued in the mind, because the mind doesn't necessarily understand if you're being positive or negative. Same thing with fear. It doesn't understand the fear from a lion and the fear from stage fright as being separate. And the same thing is true with the things we tell ourselves. Because if we say, oh, that was stupid, like that was real dumb of me, the mind subconsciously is going to say, I guess I'm stupid and I guess I'm dumb. Now, of course, on the conscious side, we don't think that, right? But the mind is going to naturally mold into something that we are either paying attention to or not. So it's important that we look at all the subtle things we do. Sometimes they can be loud and glaring and shouting, and we can say, whoa, we need to fix that very quickly. But then sometimes we don't necessarily know what we're doing. And before you know it, we're reaching our demise. But then we look at the third question. We look at, do I find myself rationalizing small lapses in discipline? For example, the gym. Oh, I can't go to the gym today because I'm so busy with work and the kids, they have a concert and man, I have to go to the grocery store and cook dinner. Otherwise, everyone's going to go hungry. Guess what? Those are all valid excuses, right? 100% valid. But it's a lapse in your discipline, because no matter what, even if you have all of those challenges and all of those things that you have to do, you figure out a way to do it. You will always make time for the things that are important to you, for you. Because if you basically will maybe make the dinner and do everything, and by the end of the night, guess what? You might find yourself on the smartphone on YouTube for 30 minutes where you could have did some type of workout, whether it be a home workout or you went to the gym. You could have did something, right? Something could have been done where you just primed the mind to say, hey, just because we couldn't do exactly what we always do, let's just still do something with the intention of fitness, of doing what we are disciplined to do. And if you find yourself lapsing in those things, it's going to be in a compound and it's going to kind of hurdle. It's going to be like a stone just kind of rolling downhill. It's going to be almost impossible to stop. So we stop the things, or we prevent the things from happening before they start to get out of hand. Now, our last questions is going to be, are my relationships routine or thought patterns beginning to reflect a stagnation, right? So are you finding yourself kind of in the same loop where there's nothing different, where everything is kind of like, okay, I'm expecting this and I get exactly what I expected, and the brain loves this in the beginning, but then after a little while, right, it gets stale. If you had an option to eat a stale bagel or a stale piece of bread or a nice fluffy fresh bagel or fresh piece of bread and maybe warm that just came out of the oven, that's more enticing. When you go to a restaurant, they give you fresh bread typically. They don't give you stale bread. If you are going to a restaurant that's giving you stale bread, it's probably not a good restaurant. So you probably want to think about going to a different restaurant, right? And in life is the same thing. You want to switch it up. If you're having a stale situation, switch it up. You want to change your destination. You want to change your outcome, right? We want the warm, fresh stuff. And we have to create intention for that. And that's why a mindset intervention is sometimes necessary for us to realize what is happening and what we need to do about the things that have been happening, occurring, and things that are being done. So we can begin to look at the end goal, what we truly want versus what's happening right now. Now, of course, there's a process to things. For example, building a home, you might want your paint on the walls. Let's say you want like blue paint, like on your walls. Well, guess what? You have to pour the foundation first. You have to build the framing first, and then eventually you put the sheetrock up, after some ways down, and then you can paint. It's not, all right, I got the foundation poured. Let me start painting the sheetrock. It doesn't work that way. And if you did, you're going to be painting for three different times, right? When the sheetrock's not up, after the sheetrock is repaired, and then after everything is decorated, you're going to be painting quite a bit. I say, let's figure out what we need to do in order that's going to be most logical. And then we operate from there. Now, of course, experience is going to be a reflection of what you do, but I always say it's important that you are able to seek some level of guidance. And this is where coaching comes in, where you can get a coach, you can get a mentor, you can get a guide, you can find someone who has done what you have done. Now, it could be fitness, it could be family, it could be business, right? It could be whatever you're looking for. And you can replicate what someone has done. Because if you are trying to reinvent the wheel every single time you are making some level of moves, you're going to find yourself always in an uphill battle. And I encourage people, why do all the work when all the work has already been done for you? Now, unless you're trying to do something that has never been done before, then there is going to be templates and systems that have already been tested, and you have to figure out what works for you, who you need to hire, who you need to put on your team in order to make everything work. Because when, for example, let's say you are a new business and you're trying to get clients, well, one of the things you have to do is get people in the door. Now, I remember there was a new pizza spot that opened up by one of the offices in South Austin. They basically were giving free pizzas to businesses. You have to ask, how much money did these people lose? But then you have to ask yourself, how much money did they gain? How much business did they get? Because they were just going around giving, 2, 3 pizzas to businesses and saying, here, we just opened up around the corner. And guess where, that office, where I'm at, they order pizza from? That same pizza spot. It was like they were hooked. They were like, I'm hooked to this pizza. I don't know what they're putting in it. Maybe love, maybe common sense, but it was a brilliant business idea. Now, in the beginning, of course, it felt scary, I'm sure, for them. We don't know if people are going to reach out to us and get pizza, but sure enough, they're thriving. So we need to give ourselves that intention too. Now, we're trying to, look at the slippery slope. I have some questions here in the article. We're not going to go through all of them because I want you to work through this TOS part 71. Now, in this, you're going to be able to audit your routine, revisit your vision, engage in physical resets, declutter your environment. Maybe you would use 5-minute intervals and rules to kind of help you with overwhelm and planning. And then, of course, you're going to seek some type of external perspective so you don't necessarily get blindsided at every single turn. Of course, there's going to be many things that you have to do, daily check-ins, weekly check-ins. You need accountability partners. And then, of course, one of the most powerful tools that you can leverage is going to be some level of journaling. Now, the journaling is going to be something where you're just honestly, brutally honest with yourself. And you can say, are you doing the right things? Or are you not doing the right things? And, when I was journaling quite a bit, when I was like doing the business and everything, it was a lot of words. It was 2-3 pages of words trying to get all of my thoughts out. And there's like a saying, if you can't think, you listen. And if you can think, you speak or you write. And so you are just trying to, get your thoughts out if your mind is good. But if your mind is like foggy and it's not helping, anything, that's when you try to put input in. And this is where we have the podcast. This is where we have motivational content, videos, etc. Those things act as the spark to kind of get you going again. It's easy for anyone to give themselves an intention of, all right, I'm going to do this. These are my goals, and I'm going to make sure I follow everything that I'm supposed to do every single day, because it is easy to fall off track. Look at the New Year's resolutions as an example, right? All the people that have been going to the gym are not going to the gym anymore. Well, not all of them, but a good amount of people. My gym is empty right now. I just have my regulars that were there at the end of last year there. And the new people that kind of come in are just signing up. Those people are going to come in maybe a couple times and they're going to fall off because they have no true incentive in the sense of, starting something new. Now, of course, they could have a personal incentive, a trauma, a doctor's note. Maybe they got diagnosed with something that their doctor's saying, hey, you need to fix this very quickly. Otherwise, we're going to have some problems. Sure enough, people can take that and they can say, okay, let me start to make some changes. But not until you really can sit down to yourself and say, okay, let's have an intervention. Because the word intervention can be a powerful catalyst for change. I understand intervention might be negative to some people, right? It's like, I don't have a problem. Well, if you didn't have a problem, then, why are you stressed? Why are you anxious? Why are you worried? Why are you anticipating something good still happening, right? If everything was going good, you would be able to appreciate the moment. You would be able to appreciate what you have versus I need this, I want this. If the mind is so busy on the external or the future, then it's going to have a very difficult time with attaining the goals that they would like to attain. Because it's like almost like, let's say like your house is very messy. And when you open your door, maybe you have to like walk through the living room in order to get to the kitchen, right? Imagine if there was a bunch of boxes there. You have all these boxes of junk literally in your way, and you can't get to the kitchen very easily. You have to maneuver. You might have to jump over some boxes. You might have to move some boxes, go under like you're playing some type of game as like you're in a Discovery Zone or Chuck E. Cheese's or a trampoline park or something. And you're trying to navigate from your front door to the kitchen. If you were tidy in a sense, right? If you cleaned your house and you decluttered everything and you gave yourself a straight path to that goal of going to the kitchen, imagine what you can accomplish. You would be able to do the things that you want to do so much more quickly rather than having to struggle in a sense for you to move the boxes or to move the things that are in your way. You already created the way. The way has been cleared for you. Now, even though the way is clear today, some things are going to fall in your path. You're going to have some troubles, some obstacles, some people, and those people and those things and those obstacles essentially are those boxes, and they're going to keep on piling in front of your path until you are no longer able to traverse to the kitchen easily. And so you have to constantly do your work. You have to constantly do the cleaning up and the tidying to make sure that your path from that front door to the kitchen is always easily traversable. And if you cannot easily get from point A to B, there's something that you have to do. And this is why an intervention is important. This is why looking at your life as, almost with a magnifying glass to say, hey, let me look at these things before I reach my demise. Because you might not realize maybe one day one of those boxes are going to have a bunch of marbles, or they're going to have a bunch of cars or something. and you're going to step on one of those things and you're going to slip and you're going to break your arm or you're going to break your back, you're going to, get unconscious or whatever. There's a lot of negative things that can happen there, right? And those negative things are not so much only about physical harm to the body, but about mental damage to the mind as well. Because when you have a hiccup, when you have a slip, you're going to say, whoa, now I'm paying attention to this. Now, some people, they can take those negativities and they can say, let me use those as a positive, as some leverage, and be able to propel forward. But most people, they can't, right? Most people, they're just going to have that negative thought in their mind and they're going to say, whoa, this is tough for me, right? There's a reason why 1% of the world, succeed wildly. So we can even say maybe 99% of people are going to struggle with aspects of having to deal with themselves or having to deal with the days when they're not 100% or the days they're not being consistent with their goals or disciplined. And so there's many different avenues that we can take today in order to make sure we stay on track. Of course, we can read this article here, TOS Part 71, Mindset Intervention Before Our Demise. We can continually to ask ourselves our questions. We can reflect. We can look at the different things and recalibrate if anything's going on by auditing, revisiting, all of these different things, right? Daily check-ins and all of these things and all of these tools here are on the website or in the blog. Link is right down in the description box and you can easily get this. You can print it out. Just maybe take the parts that give the directions rather than the explanation for some of the directions, because it is pretty self-explanatory. And I encourage people to, just say, hey, when I'm doing the wrong thing, let me look at one of these 3 areas. Ask yourself some questions, maybe do some soul searching. And then, of course, if you don't want to do it yourself, you can always just hire a coach, and your coach does all of this naturally. For my clients, they don't even have to worry about any of this because I do it all for them. It is easy, right? I love when I can rely on someone. I can say, okay, this is your job. This is what you're going to do. They do it and it's so easy. It's like, where have you been all my life? And that's what I enjoy about coaching, is because I get to do the things that some people don't want to do, right? The mundane things, the checking in. I'll check in for you, right? We'll figure out where you need to be. Because like I said, we all have blind spots in a sense. And we have to be able to see the outside perspective. And so you can get, a person that can hold you accountable. But even those people, like I've been accountability partners to people who weren't truly, I'm not going to say hungry, but there was something blocking them, stopping them from truly saying, okay, this is my goal. This is the result I want. Let me go get it. Because in a sense, you don't necessarily need an accountability partner. You don't need someone cheering you on. You can be your biggest cheerleader. You can be the person who believes in yourself. But it becomes difficult at times, especially when you have so much external stimulus. You have to be a mom. You have to be a dad. You have to pay the bills. And so things start to stack on where now you can't do the things that you want to do, or the things that are going to have a better return, maybe by starting a business and having the business flourish. Those things are going to be better long term. But of course, when we get going, when we get started, we can also become distracted. So today is an intervention for you to regain your focus, to regain your clarity, to regain the idea that you can start to make progress toward the assets in your life. The most important asset that I know for 100% guarantee is you. So you are the person that you should be investing in. The investment doesn't always have to be coaching. It can be time. It can be dedication. It can be saying, okay, this is what I need to work on today. You know where you need to be making some big changes. And of course, you might know where you need some help. And if you are neither of those people, again, because this is a TUS, I encourage you, reach out to us, revenconcepts.com, get yourself a consultation and just begin there. It's free. And I always tell people, you don't have to, sign up for any type of coaching in order to begin your journey. Understand where you are. Maybe, get a, good kick in the butt, because I'm going to give you a kick in the butt, especially if you come to me with some nonsense. And I'm going to say, you need to fix this. Okay. And if you want to fix it with me, great. If you want to fix it by yourself, at least you know what needs to be happening, right? Because today is that intervention, right? Of course, your future is something you might be desiring, and maybe your future is waiting for you to show up. Allow today to be the day you step into that mindset that you are going to show up, that you are going to stop doing things that are going to bring about your demise. Let's bring about your success and prosperity instead. It's going to be so much more fulfilling at the end of the day.